Welcome back, or thanks for joining if it's your first time. Today I'm going to be talking about The Cursed Sea by DeStefano. It is the second in a duology, the first of which is The Glass Spare. I thought this was a great book. Some things I can complain about, but on the whole, I don't regret spending however much money I shouldn't have spent, because, you know, there's more important things to buy than audiobooks. Cursed Sea opens up with Will returning to Erod. It has something to do with Loom and something to do with a marveler named Pawn, which I'll get into later. But I was like, I had no clue. I felt like somebody had just dropped me into the middle. She comes back to Erod, and of course she's nervous because she has no idea what her dad's been telling people. And she soon discovers that something's amiss. The guards are different, and when Baron comes to the gate, he, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, the kid is. He's calling her a ghost, and he's like, why won't you leave me alone? Why won't you go away? So she learns pretty quickly that her father is dead. He had told everybody that she had died along with Owen, and that Baron is king, but her curse doesn't work in Erod anymore, which you'd think is a good thing, because then she can touch people, there's no danger. But in this suppression of her curse, it's killing her, essentially. I don't exactly remember why. Maybe because she's really snoopy and she wants to know what's going on with Baron, because not only is he cuckoo, but he's up to something. She follows him to this cave where she learns that he is meeting with a marveler, which I mentioned Pawn earlier. So marvelers, they have magic, but they're not necessarily looked upon highly. This marveler has been teaching Baron how to be a marveler, and also telling him that everybody in his family needs to die. Dun dun dun. Sometime later, Will returns to this cave seeking answers, because Gertie, who had been under the impression that she was dead, had been searching for answers as to where she was, what happened to her, and had found a hidden portrait in her room. It's a portrait of a girl who looks very much like her. She takes this portrait to the marveler, and the marveler, she goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And she tries to, she kind of gives Will some other answers, very vague, but she attacks Will, and then Will thinks she kills her, escapes. Through discussion, she decides it's time to go, but she doesn't go by herself, because her brother, for Owen's widow, Adney, is pregnant, which everybody has been trying to keep from Baron, because obviously he'll kill Adney and or the baby. So they both escape. Will then seeks out Loom. Again, I know I just read this book, but there were just certain things, I guess, I zoned out on, or I didn't quite catch. Because the whole reason that she was back in Erod was because of something to do with Loom. So I'm like, why is she going back to him when she didn't achieve anything? Anyways, as she's looking for him, she gets captured by Pawn, who is an evil marveler who works for Loom's father, as well as Loom's sister Espel, and Espel's marveler guard, Maisley. So Loom and Espel have a very difficult relationship in that they were raised not to like each other. Of course, Will is freaking out because I think she wants to warn Loom, and only to find out that Loom's already been captured. But she's freaking out because Espel is not a good person. She's not a good character. She's an enemy. On the trip back to the Southern Isles, because the Southern King wants Will's heart, because he has learned what her power can do. Delivering her back, she convinces Espel that the king is only out for himself and good things will not happen. They get there, things go wrong, Espel defies him, and I think she, tries to kill him. But he, in turn, tries to kill Maisley, and in that we learn that Espel and Maisley, I don't know if they're actually lovers, but they are in love. And that becomes its own little, not really a subplot, but kind of a trickle. It does humanize both of them. They escape. The group decides to go back to Erod, even though that is dangerous for Will. I don't remember why they want to go back. As much as I enjoyed this book, there are a lot of details that I've obviously forgotten and or missed out on. But so they go back to Erod, find that it's destroyed, and that both of Will's brothers, and potentially her mother, they don't actually confirm that. They don't find a body, they don't look for her. They just assume, have died. So Will is distraught, and they are returning to the boat when Pawn captures them. And it's actually only Loom and Will. Like, Espel's around somewhere, but we don't know where. Which turned out to be a good thing, because Espel manages to rescue Will, but not before Pawn makes off with Loom. So then, he enchants Loom. Like, he wants Will's heart. So he enchants Loom to bring him her heart. You need to kill her and bring me her heart. So they come up with this plan to trick Pawn and the king into thinking they had given him Will's heart, because it wasn't quite phrased that way. It's very generalized. Pawn said, bring me her heart. So they brought him her heart in a guise. Obviously, it's not the real heart, which Pawn knows, and that is when the curse, the magic, the enchantment comes into play, and Loom stabs Will. This is, again, something I don't get. Like, okay, so Maisley tries to use her magic, and it's not working, and then something about Loom saying that he doesn't want to be king, he doesn't want to rule his kingdom, something enables Will to survive. I don't know if it has to do with her curse or his curse or something, but anyways, she lives, but Pawn is still there. So Baron comes out of nowhere and kills him. It's revealed that Baron, using his marvelry, faked the deaths. The mother's fine, and you think that's it. Like, they basically tied up all the loose ends. But it's not, because we still have Loom and Espel's father to deal with. So there's, like, I don't know, another chapter or two where they're figuring out what to do, and then they kill him, and then Espel, and then they're trying to decide, well, who's gonna accede to the throne. Then we go back to Will, who, you know, Baron, still alive, still king, still believes she's a curse, that she's out to destroy their family, and so he exiles her. In this period of exile, she realizes that, you know, her cursed heart was only supposed to be cursed while she was living, while her heart still beat. But then Loom killed her, and her heart stopped beating. So she's like, well, my curse is gone, but, you know, Baron doesn't buy it. She is like, well, the curse didn't fully go away. It's kind of like a voiceover, in a sense, like tying up real fast. Her curse isn't totally gone, but she can manage it. She has control over it. And then there's an epilogue in which she recounts the birth of Owen and Adney's daughter and the future that's gonna happen. And that is really, I have two major issues. That is one of my big issues, in that ending did not feel cohesive with the rest of the novel. Like, the rest of the novel has really great pace, and then the ending, like, you have something where you feel like it's a natural place to end, which is when Pawn dies and the family is revealed to be safe. I understand there are those loose ends of what happens with Loom and Espel's father, but it's like, couldn't she have included that? Like, why did the father have to stay in his own kingdom and just send Pawn to do all his dirty work? Like, couldn't they have both been there and been involved in a battle and both been killed? And we're done, you know? Like, instead they dragged it on and then had this, you know, neat little bow about the baby being born, which, you know, that can all be assumed. Like, we get it. You know, the baby's gonna be born. Baron won't be king anymore. She wanted to do a lot, but she didn't have enough room, so she did this, and it just didn't feel right. Anyways, so my other problem was she had quite a few POVs, and I'm okay with 2. I mean, more if, like, Jojo Moyes is one of my favorites, and she tends to have, like, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 POVs, which is fine if they all have a purpose, if they all not necessarily have equal screen time, but if they all have a reason. And I felt like in The Cursed Sea, Will was obviously an important POV. Loom I could accept, but then, I mean, gosh, like, I think Gertie and the Queen, maybe Baron, Espel, like, they all had these little snippets. And there was no need. Like, she could have told the story without those. It didn't flow. Jojo Moyes will tell you who the new perspective is. Generally, it's because she's starting a new chapter. These weren't necessarily always new chapters. DeStefano didn't tell us that there was a change in perspective. So all of a sudden, I'm like, this is not Will. This is a male narrator. Who am I listening to? Another important detail, which you're probably saying, the whole point of the series is Will is looking for answers about her cursed heart. The answer is this, and it's kind of convoluted, which is also problematic because nobody wants to be confused. So, the creepy Marveler woman from the cave. Will has thought she killed her, but she didn't. And then when she was escaping, the Marveler attacks again, and Will's mother kills her again, which, since she doesn't reappear, I assume she died. But this Marveler turns out to be Will's grandmother. And the curse happened because Will's grandmother had an affair. This affair resulted in Will's aunt. The king did not know that this was not his child, and he loved this child dearly. And then he learned that it wasn't, that his wife had had an affair. It kind of pushed him over the edge. It's not that he blamed his daughter for it, but he could no longer see her the same way. So he decided to kill her. So he got an enchanted blade and he stabbed her. The enchantment was to create a curse that nobody could love someone, not nobody, I think that a queen could not love anybody more than her king. Once the queen learned what he did, she tossed herself off of a cliff, but she survives, because obviously this woman just can't die. After she survives, she learns Marvelry, and then she creeps back into the kingdom, and she starts influencing Baron, and then we go from there. So she's kind of the reason that Baron thinks that everybody needs to die. I don't know what everybody needs to die, because it's really about you can't love anybody more than the king. So, honestly, Will's mother, the only person she loved more than her king was Will. And I guess maybe that is why the curse was enacted, or maybe it was enacted because she had turned 16, and that is when her aunt had died. So that's the story behind the curse. I like it. I think it's really creative. I think more could have been done with it. We get this in flashbacks throughout the story, because when Will had approached her grandmother in the cave, her grandmother said that she was going to reveal the story, or the reason behind the curse, or I don't remember the exact wording. After that encounter, Will has these dreams in which all this is revealed, and that explains actually why the king seemed to hate her, because he loved his sister so much, and Will resembled her so much that he just, and maybe this also applies to all of his children, he didn't want the same thing to happen as had happened with his parents. That's pretty much the story. That is pretty much my thoughts. And if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day!